Hello and welcome to the next series of Fireside Chats, where I sit down with the co-founders of Sopro, Rob and Ryan, and talk about different subjects related to demand generation. I'm Sophie, and today we're going to be talking about the hottest subject in town, multi-channel outreach. We're here in Nile House in Brighton, where we've got conferences and different workspaces going on, and really excited to grab some time with you both. So Ryan, start us off for people that may not know, what is the definition of multi-channel outreach?
Okay, so I'll start by winding the clock back. If you go back 10 years, outreach was pretty much a one-horse race, right? It was email, and even that was in the early stages of becoming probably what then became the most prolific B2B outreach channel for much of the last decade. What's happened is, over that sort of 10-year period, and particularly the last 5, and more specifically the last couple of years, the ability to do email has become very easy, and the costs are coming down, and consequently a lot of good email going from a lot of businesses to probably the same number of recipients. Inboxes are very busy as a result, and the power of email as a single channel sort of losing its impact to a degree. So it's then become more and more important over the years to layer in additional ways to reach and engage with potential buyers. And one of the ways that businesses are now doing that really effectively is through multi-channel outreach. And really that means engaging people through all of the mediums that are available to you as a business to put your brand and message in front of people. Obviously it still includes email, but it also includes some of the common ones, things like LinkedIn, connecting and messaging. It also includes some of the more old school methods like direct mail, for example. We're actually including social ad sync, so porting campaign audiences into display engines, so running ads through Meta, Google, LinkedIn, in those formats, but in coordination with campaign activity as a channel to complement your outreach. And then also you've got good old-fashioned cold calling, and I think what's happened with cold calling, again, response rates have probably dwindled over the last 10 years, and it's become much more expensive to generate leads and meetings. But actually, when focused in the right sort of subsets of your campaign audience, so in that particular case it will be the individuals that have shown intent, they might have interacted with your website post receiving emails or other outreach, viewed your pricing, you might have a bit of engagement on LinkedIn, putting your calls in at that point. So there's the right place for each one of those channels, but the point is coordinating, in that case, 5 channels of, the key, we say the big 5 in B2B outreach terms, to your audience in a really effective, joined up way is probably how I put multi-channel outreach on the table.
Great. What if you could sum it up in one sentence? What would multi-channel outreach be?
I think you can. You can go first if you like.
Lots of channels, one audience.
Oh, nice.
It doesn't mean anything.
It's
basically like multi-channel is almost not the key thing. It's about getting your message in front of as many people as many times as possible.
Right.
If you talk to someone about something once, they don't remember it. If you talk to them 2, 3, 4 times about it, they will. And the point of multi-channel is being able to do that. And you don't know where someone's going to be more reactive. They might be on social, might be on email, but it gives you more opportunity to
Is
get
it
that
as many
message across.
times as possible, or
Yes.
is it through as many media as possible?
As many times.
Okay, so if you were to run display ads to people 100 times a month, for example, how's that going to work out for you?
Is it got to be
Brilliantly.
spread across?
I think the spread, yeah, exactly. The channel mix is quite important. You've got to get through every different angle at the right kind of cadence. So you don't want overexposure.
True. But I mean, the reason for overexposure, even if you come back to that, is that people they don't want to see that. You show someone 10 display ads, after the third one they stop looking at it. You could make the same argument as sending someone 10 emails. They'll see it 10 times, but they'll get annoyed after the third and start putting emails into spam. So yes, multi-channel is essential to make someone see it as many times as possible.
I suppose
get annoyed.
It's the right cadence, it's the right mix of opportunities across the right spread of channels.
Volume and spread. Nice. And who came up with the idea of multi-channel
That was my idea. 100%
Right.
my
Okay.
idea.
How did it come about? When did you realise the need?
I don't think we just want to accept the fact it was Ryan's idea.
So chicken or the egg, I guess. Who?
To be honest, we've always been a little bit multi-channel.
Right.
It's more just the importance of it has increased. I don't think LinkedIn and email have always both featured from day one. So I don't think I'd quite let you have that it's your idea, but I also probably wouldn't claim it as mine either.
So I think what's happened is there's been a legacy version of multi-channel in marketing operations for years, right? And all of these channels that we're talking about have been operating in isolation for as long as most of us can probably remember, as long as we've been in marketing. What's happening now is the coordinated deployment of them and threading sequences together that you could accurately describe as multi-channel engagement sequences. That's never really been at the heart of B2B outreach. And I think that's now becoming the critical kind of defining characteristic of the campaigns that really work. Great.
And why is it necessary, especially in 2024? What's the benefits?
I think, well, the main thing is the reduced effectiveness of a single channel. And I mean, this has been going on for many, many, many years. So probably about 15 years ago, I was quite involved with a few really big emailers, much more B2C. And there was this adage, it was effectively carved in stone in everyone's mind, and that was you had to send someone an email 12 times before they saw it. And that genuinely was the belief and the stats that backed it up. And if you think about that now, the idea of sending someone 12 emails is crazy. Mm-hmm. It's just not going to work, your deliverability is going to tank. But the idea, and I'll still come back to that people need to see something more than once to remember it, for it to be top of mind when actually they think, oh, I need this service, this product. They need to be able to remember it. And so you're still solving the same challenge about remaining top of mind. And the only way to effectively do that is to do it across multiple channels, because you can't just use email, you can't just use display ads, you can't just use LinkedIn.
People might not be using that channel all the time. So if you are hitting them 12 times with an email and they don't use emails, what good is that?
Exactly. And there is a cost element to this as well, because you need to be able to, if you showed everybody in the world your ad every single day, mm-hmm. then effectively, you'd solve that, but the cost per lead would be astronomical. And it's a lot of reasons people don't use Facebook or Instagram so much for marketing, because targeting is really, really hard in a B2B context.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and I think where we see those channels working is you can run things like display, and I put things like direct mail in the same camp as well. You can run those, if you run them in parallel with the channels that typically deliver you responses, like email, for example, what you'll tend to see is you're going to see higher email response rates from people mm-hmm. that you've been running meta ads to. Even if your clicks aren't coming from your meta ads, that brand recognition is going to increase your inbox visibility and the response rates that way.
And I think that's why it's such a not difficult, but kind of not that well adopted concept, because marketing has always been about attribution and justifying ROI, and actually it's really, really hard to do, because if your direct mail spend is producing zero, but it's contributing to your email leads, how do you prove that? You can't. Mm-hmm. You can literally just say, I've spent this on marketing, I've got this many leads, and that's okay. Which is it's a much harder kind of statistical pill to swallow.
Sure. So what is your view on cadence, and why is it different for a multi-channel campaign?
Yeah, so it's a pretty hot topic at the moment. There are some real fundamental differences between single channel. So if you take historic email cadence, really, what did you mean by that term? Well, it was my first email is going to be on day 1. I'm going to send a follow-up email on day 5. I'm going to wait for a few days, and you have a cadence that effectively defines that channel's outreach. And you're not particularly limited in volume. You can scale that up or down, but that changes quite fundamentally when you're looking at a multi-channel outreach campaign. And a few reasons for that. Some technical limitations around some of the channels, and there's also very big differences in the data availability when it comes to the data points needed for reachability. So each channel has enabling data points. Email is an obvious one. I need an email address. LinkedIn, I need a LinkedIn profile. I want to make a phone call, I need a cell phone number. I want to synchronize my display ad campaigns. I'm going to need to be able to match my prospect in my Meta ad engine, for example. And there's success rates for all of those. So you've got an audience of, let's say, 50,000 prospects. All of a sudden, you don't have 50,000 prospects that you can contact through all channels. And that might range from 15,000 to 20,000 or 35,000. So you've got to structure your monthly volumes in a way that gets through your audience at the right kind of cycle rate. We typically look at, let's say, a 7-month cycle. So you'd structure your monthly volumes to effectively go through. That's 1 month of good outreach and then a 6-month cool-off period. And if you're doing that, let's say with an audience of 50,000 people, what's 50,000 divided by 7? 8,000 or so. Roughly. You can't send 8,000 LinkedIn connection requests a month. You're limited to, let's say, 500 per sales agent account. So if you've got a couple of sales agents, your LinkedIn cadence is going to, it's going to be 1,000 a month. And then audience ad sync, you're going to be actually not limited in volume at all. So you probably want to have all of your prospects in your display campaigns for all of those months. So really, what cadence comes down to in the multi-channel world is just coordinating the volumes across your channel mix in a way that recognises your total audience size, the availability of the data, the technical limitations that might be throttling certain channels, and putting it together in a way that gels, works well, doesn't cross the line into intrusiveness across any of those channels. And if you get the right mix, that's where you can start to see they get this sort of compounding effect. They really bounce off each other. The channels work well together, and you start to see really strong performance. But there's a lot of science to it, and it's not as simple as it initially sounds.
I mean, even once you've got the multi-channel strategy nailed down, I think the technology and the delivery of this becomes just as complex. There aren't systems out there that will do this. I mean, maybe in a couple of years you can orchestrate this through one single system, but right now you've got to take a way to send emails, you've got to take a way to reach out on LinkedIn, you've got to take direct mail, you've got to have some kind of scheduling workflow that ties all these things together, you've got to have the review points for the copy of each one, you have your ad creative, there's multiple platforms, and there's the tying them all together. And then there's the other end of it, which is the reporting. You've got to get all the data out in disparate formats. You've got to put it together in a way that goes, this combination of channels works, this combination of channels doesn't. Look at the very different cost models throughout each of them. On display campaigns, you're paying per 1,000 visits or impressions, for example, typically. On an email, you've got a cost per email sent. And being able to kind of do all of this is just fantastically complicated. And then when you start going, well, how do I work out the influence of a particular channel? It gets into some really, really quite hairy data science. And even once you try and overlay that strategy, it's really, really tough.
You're always going to get to a point where you've got a number of channels, buckets of data for prospects available within each of those channels that you can reach out to. And the idea of maximising that volume across all channels is never going to make sense. Mobile phones is probably the best example. You've got 50,000 prospects. Let's say you are emailing 7,000 and a bit prospects every month. You're never going to be wanting to make calls to all of those because it's so expensive to do that. So you're going to want to throttle that and be selective, use intent signals to really choose the best prospects to direct that more premium activity to. Same goes for direct mail, very expensive en masse, so you'd have a much smaller subset of activity there. Display ads, would be a much wider, probably all of your prospects over that period. And then email somewhere in the middle, and again, you've got your LinkedIn social activity. Well, that's going to be limited by the number of connection requests you can make in a month. That's a technical limitation rather than a data limitation.
And it becomes, it's in one way it's a really straightforward measure to see does your multi-channel activity work. You take the total amount you spent, total amount of new business you've generated, and you divide one by the other, and it's a ratio that does work or it doesn't. On the proviso it does work, when your next step is then optimising it, there's so many different levers you can pull to optimise it. It's not as simple as putting more data in. Like Ryan said, if you're running at your maximum data levels, what are you going to do? So is it optimising a particular channel? Okay, so which channel do you optimise? What is the impact of that particular channel? And do you sort of turn one up, turn one down? Again, mobiles being the perfect example. Should you do more cold calling, less cold calling on different triggers? And so once you start getting into the detail, it becomes, really quite complex.
I think the roots of this really all kind of ties back to, email was the primary channel for B2B outreach. And suddenly you're not able to do that. A high volume of email outreach was all of a sudden not possible. Deliverability tanks and campaigns start not working. So businesses started to look at how can we do more engagement without increasing email volume. So the logical path to doing that is by running channels alongside email. Well, I could also engage the same prospect in parallel through social channels, through display ads, through direct mail, or you could put calls in, and you're broadening out the spectrum, increasing your outreach volume that way, sort of laterally, rather than increasing the volume of prospects engaged.
Some companies did that. I mean, there's still, even now, far too many companies that are like, in the face of falling deliverability and falling lead rates, the answer is to send more, which is just crazy. It's, unless you've got an unlimited addressable market, which most companies don't. Maybe if you're selling solar panels for free to the whole of the US, you've got a big enough market that you can email 100,000 people a month, but most companies simply don't. And so by doing that, you might see an increase in your first month, in your second month, get to month 3 and you run out of data, and you've burnt through your entire addressable market, and it's such a short term and
blacklist
terrible.
is your domain as well.
Completely, yeah. It's just not the way to go. You have to be looking at how you contact more people within your market and increase that percentage of engagement.
And what would you say is the hardest part about running a multi-channel campaign, either with Sopro's help or trying to do it by yourself?
Well, with Sopro's help, it's not very difficult.
There we go.
However,
I think technical operations and actual campaign delivery, it becomes quite difficult when you've got multiple external integrations, and whether those are with sending platforms, social automation, synchronizing audience with ad engines, for example. There's lots that data needs to be flowing in lots of different directions. That is not simple. You can't use spreadsheets, and there's not very many systems that will give you a multi-channel management suite to do that. And then reporting is very difficult, because you end up, if you are using lots of different systems, you've got buckets of reporting and performance and optimization views in lots of different places, that tying it all together can be quite challenging.
I think that the challenge is it's all of that, but it's because there's so many different skills needed, and it's rare to find them in a single person. And over the years, it's been so rare that there's a particular term. Used to be technical marketer, then it was growth hacker, now it's GTM data scientist. So the challenge is finding one person who can do all of these things, understand marketing, sales, understand the technical side of the web, and I mean at a really developer level. And I think it just goes to show how rare having all those skills is. And great, if you can find someone who's got all of that, they can take an email platform, a LinkedIn platform, a direct mail, they can link them all together, they can set sequences up, they can take the data, put it in a data warehouse. There's countless different things. But for most people, you're going to need to find those skills in different people. And you're still going to need someone to oversee that, who understands enough to go, that bit's right, and that bit's right, and that bit's right. And it really is complicated. You're talking kind of pixel tracking and website webhooks and running Google ad campaigns and syncing emails from over
Technical
here with
stuff.
your audience. In most cases, it's really hard to find one person with all those skills. So in reality, what happens is you end up with different people or agencies or teams, all who specialise in one of those skills, and then you still need someone overseeing it who's going to be able to understand enough that they're being done well and to coordinate all that together. It's really complex.
Technical and complicated. Unfortunately for today, we are out of time, but thank you very much for both joining, and we'll see you on the next video.
Cheers, Sophie.
Cheers, Sophie.